Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing fantastic, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing great. Not at the usual spot today, at a different location, which is why I'm mostly just covered in darkness. You can't even see the features of my face. Which, I'm not mad about that. I wanted to address the elephant in the room by saying that. Also, excuse the poor audio quality on my end. I don't have a microphone here either, so we're just relying on the AirPod audio. Um, so yeah, just a lot of punches being thrown our way, a lot of bullets we have to dodge here in this episode. But I mean, we're professionals. We've been doing this for a while. We're gonna dodge them, and we're gonna have a great episode here, especially because we have a lot of very important things to talk about. We got to break down our Pats losing the Super Bowl. I mean, we've talked about the Super Bowl like kind of a lot as of late, but I mean, it's a really relevant thing, especially right now. Um, and I don't know, I feel like it's even more relevant. I feel like I've said this before, but just because our team is playing or played in the Super Bowl, so that gives us an even bigger reason to talk about it this much. So, right off the bat, just breaking down the Pats loss over here. Um, what I'm not gonna say is that I'm disappointed by this team. I'm not gonna say that I thought we should have done better. I thought we should have done this, that. No, I am, I mean, as disappointed I am by losing because, obviously, I'm not gonna be that upset really just because we were never even supposed to make, honestly, the playoffs, We weren't even supposed to make it that far. And the fact that we even got to the Super Bowl is personally enough for me to be satisfied and happy. So that alone is kind of keeping me content to the fact that we lost, and that's okay. We've got a second year quarterback. We've got no, we don't have a real wide receiver one. We have a mediocre running back core. Our defense is playing great, but I mean that's only does so much. Our offensive line played like they've never seen a football before in their lives. So all the planets kind of aligned for us to have a bad game. Um, and still, like, I'm not too mad just because, like I said, we weren't supposed to be this good. And the fact that, we didn't completely embarrass ourselves. Like we scored. At least we scored. I was worried we were gonna fly all the way out there just to not score a single point. I was worried we were gonna fly across the country, to where was it? San Francisco, and just get absolutely embarrassed. And you granted we did get kind of embarrassed, but it wasn't a full humiliation type of deal, I don't think. It was for a little bit. But yeah, I think key players like Will Campbell, um, honestly, Hunter Henry, were disappointing. They lacked what they needed to get the job done, especially, Will Campbell. And I don't want to really be one of the people contributing to this Will Campbell hate that's been going on lately. But especially because he's so young, coming off a pretty bad injury, which he even said he doesn't want to be seen as an excuse for his performance, So, but you do have to point out the fact that he had a subpar game. He's had a subpar playoff run, and impacted by injuries or not, it's it's excusable, but it's just not gonna fly. And while I don't hold it against him, and I still have faith in him, he he is kind of on the hot seat for me in my book, just because I don't know, to choke so hard in such a big game and in such big games throughout the playoffs is really upsetting, especially for someone who was drafted so highly and was doing so well throughout the entire season. So it's really more than anything just disappointing. But I think we can reflect, learn from it, move on to next season in that sense. Um, but honestly, my thoughts around it, I thought the Seahawks played phenomenal. I saw the San Francisco game, and I might have even said some podcast. I saw the San Francisco game. I saw how dominant they were, and I just said to myself, okay, these guys are going to win the Super Bowl. That was before we were in the Super Bowl. That was before this, that. Yeah, those guys are nasty, And there's always the idea, what if Sam Darnold chokes? What if this? What if that? Honestly, if Sam Darnold played bad, I don't think it would have even mattered because they could rely on their nasty defense, um, who the Patriots were unable to do anything to. They could rely on their run game, which obviously was amazing with Kenneth Walker winning Super Bowl MVP. Um, so they just really built a team that's a full vessel. I kind of said that about the Eagles last year. They had a full vessel. They got a nasty defense, a nasty wide receiver core, a nasty running back core, great coaching, and outstanding coaching staff, which obviously plays a big part in this. And also the fire to win, the urge to win. So that plays a big role. I think, I'm happy for Sam Darnold, obviously. I think it's really impressive how he was able to go from a bust to a Super Bowl winner. Do I know if he'll be back? No, I would be surprised if he continued to play at this level. Um, but you can't rule it out. So, the Seahawks deserve to be Super Bowl champions here. Um, there were, in all fairness, a lot of circumstances that lined up for the Patriots to get us into this position. Now, do I see that as something that makes our victories less than what they are? No, I see that as us just taking what is given to us and making the best possible outcome out of it. So really just that's good coaching. You're getting given these opportunities and you could easily roll over and try to play easy, try to have fun with it. I don't know, something like that. But no, they capitalized on it. That's a big thing. And I feel like people just aren't seeing that and they're instead of that just going with, oh, you got handed this, blah blah blah. No, they actually had to do it. They actually had to go out and earn it. So, that definitely plays a factor for me. But in conclusion, honestly, I'm happy with the season we had. I'm impressed with the Seahawks, and next year can't come soon enough. I want to see what we're gonna do in the off season. Are we gonna sign Isaiah Likely? Are we gonna get a Kyle Pitts? Are we gonna get Mike Evans? I think we need a new wide receiver one. Hunter Henry's getting old. It could be time for a tight end. So, we got a lot of moves to make. I'm interested to see what we're gonna do in the draft. Um, and I'm very not surprised, but kind of interested that we made Zach Kerr our official defensive coordinator. Um, so yeah, I am grateful for this season, as we weren't supposed to do what we did, really. And I'm just excited for the upcoming season. But Will, how do you feel about the Patriots' performance overall this season and mainly in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Cam, there's no way this season can be considered anything other than a massive success. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year. We as a fan base would have celebrated if they had just made the playoffs, much less make the Super Bowl. So the season as a whole is a massive success. And in terms of the Super Bowl, they just had a bad game. And I'm not surprised because I picked Seattle to win, but I'm not sure if I was quite expecting the game to be as one sided as it was. I thought the Patriots might at least put up a bit more of a fight, but Seattle just showed that they were the better team. And look, Drake May is a really good quarterback. He had a really good season, but I feel like he was so bad in the Super Bowl that it just reinforced that
Do you
Tom
think it was
Brady.
him
Yeah,
being bad, or do you think it was the almost disgusting performance by the offensive line? Because I think it's really hard to put
yeah,
Drake May's performance at the front and center here. I don't think that's what was bad. You saw him every single snap. He was under pressure. He felt this, he felt that. He was getting attacked out there, and his line, who had been pretty reliable throughout the season, just collapsed under pressure every single time. Now, is that because the Seahawks defense is just that much better than our offensive line? I don't know, but still, I think. Well, I agree. It definitely wasn't his finest game. To give him the most blame, no, I just can't agree with that, Will.
Oh, and I'm not giving him the most blame. And I'm not saying he's fully part of the problem. And I agree that the offensive line was also bad. I'm just saying he is part of the problem. And I feel like I feel like Tom Brady was the type of quarterback who could overcome something like that offensive line play in ways that other quarterbacks can't. And I feel like I would sometimes hear different talk throughout this NFL season, and rightfully so, because Drake May is the quarterback of the Patriots, who Tom Brady was the quarterback for 20 years. But I would hear some talk throughout the season saying, oh, I see these similarities between Tom Brady and Drake May. And I feel like the Super Bowl just proved just how hard it is to do what Tom Brady did. I mean, the fact that he went in there in his first full season as a starter with the Patriots and won the Super Bowl, that's just so hard to do, and that's just not something you can expect other quarterbacks uh, to be able to do. So, Drake May had a great season, but I feel like the moment just proved, at least in that game, to be too big for both the offensive line and Drake May. And then in terms of next season, I'm not expecting them to have a bad season next season. I think Mike Rabel has built up a quality team and a great culture with the Patriots. So I am not saying they're going to be bad next season, but I have a hard time believing that we're going to see what they did this season again, because it is so hard to go to the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons. There is a reason that the Patriots and the Chiefs are the only teams in the 21st century to win back-to-back Super Bowls. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And the Patriots, while they did beat quality opponents this season, also had a easier than usual regular season schedule that allowed them to
Definitely.
play a lot of opponents that were easier to beat. And I just have a hard time seeing them having the same success in the regular season next year when I think their schedule is going to be a lot harder. Now, the positive is that they have now built themselves up to be a team that's going to be an attractive destination in the offseason and make players want to
100%.
come play for them. So that could really help them out. But I still have a hard time believing that next season is going to match what they did this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's obviously rare for teams to do what they did this season, or for teams to go back to the Super Bowl again. And I mean, again, I'm gonna go in not expecting it like I did last year. Hopefully, I'm surprised. I probably won't be. I'm mainly just interested in us preparing for the future, preparing even more for the future, signing people like Isaiah Likely in free agency, trading potentially, doing this, manipulating the market, uh, scouting the draft, finding the best possible prospects. When I say prepare for the future, an example of that would be, I mean, just what we did in last year's draft. A good example, drafting Andy Borregales, our kicker of the future. Drafting Travion Henderson, our running back of the future. It's stuff like that I want to see. I want to see even more preparation for the future, just so we can keep building this team, and eventually we'll become a real asset because we were able to have all this success with a great quarterback, a wide receiver core full of wide receiver twos. In all fairness, Diggs is great. He catches every ball that gets thrown to him, but he's not as reliable as he once was, and that's to be expected with his age in the NFL and also he's just a year off of a really bad knee injury, that stuff devastates you, And that kind of brings me to think about Tyreek Hill here, um, because he was just released by the Dolphins, and it crossed my mind, do we sign Tyreek Hill? Is that something in our wheelhouse? Is that something we could do? Um, you think about that, and then you look at what has kind of transpired with Diggs. And you start to wonder, I don't know, is that the smart idea? I'm leaning towards no, just because of the risk and just because of how that will definitely impact Tyreek's game. I feel like it impacted Diggs less because he's less of a catch and run wide receiver, at least compared to Tyreek is. Tyreek Hill's main game. He's not a big guy, but he's gonna catch the ball and he's gonna give you 20 yards after the catch every play with his speed. He's coming off a knee injury. That's going to affect his speed and his running ability. Um, so you have to take that into account. But something else you unfortunately have to take into account is all of Stefon Diggs's legal issues. How will that affect him next season? It's going to go two ways. It's going to go be relatively unaffected. I mean, he was just in court. He'll appear again, and it might blow over. They'll figure something out that won't affect the team, or in all honesty, this is a possibility. He could be released by the New England Patriots. And if that happens, we kind of have to go into desperation mode. Do we draft a wide receiver? I don't know. Do we get Mike Evans? Do we get Tyreek? Um, Honestly, in my opinion, I say we go for Mike Evans just because, in terms of personality, he's not someone who's gonna be crazy off the field, especially compared to someone like Diggs, who I respect in terms of a locker room presence, but clearly he has some issues um, outside of the locker room. And then you got Tyreek, who also is confirmed to have issues outside of the locker room as well. Yeah, different situations, obviously, and people change. But just in terms of that risk, I would take Mike Evans. And while he was banged up this year, he's not coming off the same type of injury that Tyreek is coming off of. And they are both old, and that's another thing you have to take into account. But it was either an old Diggs or an old Mike Evans. You're gonna get you're gonna get someone old, which does go against what I was saying. Prepare for the future. That's getting someone who's in their 30s isn't really preparing for the future. So that brings in, do you draft a wide receiver, Will? Do you think that's even possible? Yeah, especially because we just drafted Efton Chisholm. We just drafted Kyle Williams, Booty, and Demario Douglas are relatively young, and you still have a strong older presence in Mac Hollins. So, are you drafting a wide receiver, Will? Trying to find a true wide receiver one, do you think?
Um, I
And
mean, yeah.
this is really if Diggs ends up falling through, like it ends up not working out for him in New England. That's really what I'm setting up for.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens with Stephon Diggs, I would certainly say it wouldn't hurt to try and get a true number one wide receiver. But I would say ultimately, I trust whatever decision Mike Vrabel makes because for the first time in a long time with this Patriots organization, I feel like we're able to say as fans that this is an organization that's in the hands of people we can trust. Because during those
Yeah.
last couple seasons with Bill Belichick, as great of a coach as Bill Belichick is an amazing coach, but he
A
lost
rightful
it.
first ballot Hall of Famer, by the way.
A rightful first ballot Hall of Famer. He lost it in those final couple seasons. He could not be trusted the same. Gerard Mayo certainly could not be trusted. So in terms of the whole wide receiver situation, yeah, I mean, if something happens with Diggs, maybe wouldn't hurt to try and get a number one wide receiver. But whatever they do, I trust that Mike Vrabel in this team is going to make the right decision because this is a team that's in the hands of trustworthy leadership, which is not something we've been able to say in quite some time.
No, definitely. And that just gives me so much faith that we have these people that we can trust in the front office. And that's just like kind of what you were saying, what we've been missing for so long. Um, you know, I'm excited for the next season. Well, and I'm not gonna have the crazy expectations. I'm gonna miss the NFL. Well, I'm gonna miss it, you know. And I also we have to kind of talk about, were you a fan of the Bad Bunny halftime show?
Yeah, so I will say this, even though Bad Bunny is not my style of music, I can still have respect for the halftime show that he put on
Yeah.
because I just feel like the halftime show just had such a new, fresh vibe to it that felt so different than any other halftime show we had seen at any point in the past. And it just felt like just a look into this like whole other language and this whole other culture, which is not something that you typically get to see with these Super Bowl halftime shows. So I feel like Bad Bunny showed up, did what the job asked as a Super Bowl halftime performer. And again, I just must say, I think the NFL has been doing such a spectacular job putting diversity on the forefront with the halftime show in recent years. From my memory, since Maroon 5 did the halftime show back in 2019, I think it's been all people of color and people who aren't white doing the halftime show since then. So I thought having Bad Bunny do the halftime show this year was just another great step in the diversity category for the NFL.
100%. And like you're saying, I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. I just never have been. Um, I mean, I actually like some of the songs he performed. I listened to some of his new album, which, I mean, if you look at some of his other stuff in his discography, it's drastically different. From what I've read, from what I've learned about Bad Bunny, this most recent album that he has out, that he performed some of at the Super Bowl, and that it's really become a big hit. It's a more traditional sound for him. He was really tapping into his heritage, to his roots in that album, which I thought was really nice, and it made for some really good music that, despite me, not being a Bad Bunny fan, I was able to enjoy at the Super Bowl. I was impressed by the Ricky Martin, I think it was, appearance. I thought that was cool. I was impressed by the Lady Gaga appearance, who, however random it was, I thought that was pretty cool. Um, Cardi B was there too, doing one of the dancers, which was awesome to see, especially because of her ties to Stefan Diggs, which, that whole story is a whole other conversation for another episode of that Cardi B Stefan Diggs story. Um, but yeah, I think it was just pretty cool to see. I was impressed with the whole choreography behind it, the story behind it. The wedding was super cool, and I think it's becoming more of a trend, especially after Kendrick's, to have kind of a a story behind these halftime shows, which I think is a really creative and smart thing to do. So I was happy that that trend continued here with Bad Bunny, and he certainly put on a show. And yeah, I was entertained for sure. Um, speaking of entertainment, and speaking of performing at concerts, guess who just announced a tour? Um, this might not even be relevant for you guys, but for us, we're big Bruce Springsteen fans. Um, and he's been particularly active as of late, just speaking up for what's right. And I think he's going to continue to do that with this tour that was just announced, the Land of Hope and Dreams tour, which is the perfect name for it, based off what I think he's going to be going for. Yeah, I'm gonna be trying to get tickets. Well, I'm gonna be trying to get my hardest. You guys plan on getting tickets over there?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, that'd just be sweet. And I mean, I can't believe he's going back on tour. It's just really exciting for us. And like I said, it might not be exciting for you guys, but this is a big thing. It's only so often that Bruce Springsteen strolls into your town with the E Street Band and puts on over 2.5 hour show at the age of, how old is he now? 77, 78.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you gotta see him when you can, you can't do this forever. But I mean, the way he's going, it's looking like it. But yeah, just had to bring that up just because I'm how excited I am. Speaking of excitement, remember how we said we're gonna work on like transitions into topics? I think I'm gonna bring that back. I'm gonna try to up my transitions into different topics. So maybe look for that in the future. Um, Speaking of transitions into topics, we're transitioning into a little talk about. See, that was bad, but whatever. Mandalorian and Grogu, which just had a full trailer drop, despite kind of missing out on the Super Bowl, and that could be because I guess Super Bowl commercials, Super Bowl time was at an all-time high in terms of price, which could be it, but it's also Disney, so that's probably not a problem. Um, I have a weird feeling that Disney and Star Wars aren't confident in this movie. I don't know why. Maybe because it's bad. I don't know. But I think if this were maybe like, I don't know, Star Wars Episode 10, they would definitely have a full Super Bowl commercial. But for some reason, they're not marketing this movie as much as they should. So I'm interested to see how that'll change as we get even closer to the release date. I hope they continue to market it. I'm a big fan of the TV show, and obviously we're big fans of Star Wars, so we want it to continue, and the only way to do that is by, promoting it. So, I mean, based off the trailer that we did get, despite it not being at Super Bowl, I think this movie looks pretty good. Um, I think they're kind of leaning a little too far into the more kids-centric Star Wars area, an extra focus on Grogu maybe. Um, I don't know. I'm still going to be entertained, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of action sequences that catch my interest. It's cool that Weaver's in this movie. Zeb is in this movie, a Star Wars Rebels fame. So, I'm gonna watch it. It's probably gonna be pretty good. Will, are you interested in this movie?
So let me start by saying this. I am not here to hate on The Mandalorian at all. I think The Mandalorian is an all-time great Star Wars show. And I think he's absolutely one of the best Star Wars characters. So I am not here to hate on The Mandalorian at all. And I am not here to say that this movie is going to be bad, because I don't expect it to be bad. But this movie for me still has two lingering concerns that the latest trailer for me just did not take away. One is I just feel it is, and I'm sure that they have financial and budgetary reasons for why they're doing it, but to take something that worked so well as a show for 3 seasons and turn it into a movie, that is a risk. And I am still concerned about that. And if The Mandalorian is going to be going on like these different missions for the New Republic in this movie, I'm like, wouldn't it be better to make a whole season out of that and have each episode be its own separate mission, and instead of squeezing it
Definitely.
all into a movie? So that I'm still concerned about. And then this latest trailer just still seems to be going for, I guess, what you could call Grogu cute moments. And here's my take. I'm fine with those being there here and there, and those being an aspect of that character, but I feel like just doing Grogu cute moments left and right is a disservice to all the other amazing aspects of that character and all the other
Definitely.
amazing aspects that made the character so good in the first place. So it's those two things that I just remain to be concerned about with this movie. And I didn't think the trailer was bad, but it didn't like knock my socks off and make me go, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be um, the best Star Wars movie ever." But one thing that I was shocked to see is that of all people to be voicing a character in The Mandalorian and Grogu, Martin Scorsese is going to be doing so in this movie. If you were to ask me to come up with a list of people who I would have expected to have voice roles in The Mandalorian and Grogu, Martin Scorsese would have been one of the last guesses that would have come to my
Yeah,
mind.
definitely.
Martin Scorsese, I read on Variety that he came out back in 2019 and said that Star Wars is not cinema. And this is the guy who's come out and said that Marvel isn't cinema and those movies are like theme park rides. So for him, of all people who has come out and said that stuff, to be voicing a character in this movie, I am just stunned. And I tried to think of reasons why. I'm like, okay, maybe he's just doing this to have fun and venture into something that he's not accommodated to doing, or maybe he feels like he went overboard with his past comments, and this is his way of apologizing for that, or maybe he actually really likes the Mandalorian as a show, and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and the team behind it, and feels like this is a project that is well done and would
Yeah,
be
but it's also
worthy.
not like he takes voice roles often.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. And that's why it makes it so shocking. And I want to say this. Um, Martin Scorsese is entitled to whatever opinion he wants to have, especially as somebody who is considered arguably the greatest American director of all time. But I do want to say this. Martin Scorsese, when you come out here and say, oh, Marvel movies aren't cinema, Star Wars movies aren't cinema, respectfully, Martin Scorsese, who are you to say what is and isn't cinema? Like you are a revered director, but just because a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie isn't the type of movie that you would be inclined to make, it doesn't mean that it's
100%.
not great cinema, because there's been great Marvel and Star Wars content that has come out over the years that I feel like would absolutely fall into the great cinema category. So I feel look, Martin Scorsese is a great director, but he rubs me the wrong way when he says stuff like that.
Oh, 100%, I agree with you. I don't know if you've seen this. Well, it was either on Howard Stern or Joe Rogan's podcast, but Robert Downey Jr. was actually on it,
Oh
and
wow.
he talked about Scorsese saying that stuff. I'll send you that after the episode. Because yeah, it was a big thing for a while. And yeah, I think that's such a weird thing for such a highly respected director to say, you know. He's trashing his own industry, and like you said, it might not fit his perfect portrait of what a movie is, but that still doesn't discredit it as a movie. It's still a movie, you know. Maybe sure, it's more like a theme park ride, but that doesn't make it less than or anything. So yeah, I think that's just such a ridiculous criticism. I've always thought that was ridiculous. I view that as something that's just snobby, and he thinks he's some sort of cinema savior, when in reality he's just a really good director, um, a great director. So maybe you're right, Will. Maybe this is some form of him apologizing, especially because, like we were saying, he doesn't really take voice acting roles very often. Um, so that would definitely be cool to me if this was his way of making up, realizing, oh, these mean a lot to a lot of people. Maybe I should shut my mouth and talk about stuff that I actually know about. I don't know if that could be it. I hope so. But either way, it's interesting, and we're gonna continue to cover this movie as more comes out about it. Hopefully, we receive more marketing surrounding it. It gives me more confidence, like you were saying, well, that Jon Favreau is directing it. I respect him as a filmmaker and an actor, so I have high hopes for this movie. A little uneasy with how they're using the Grogu character, but nonetheless, I'm interested. With that, that wraps up this episode of the Everything Podcast. I want to thank you all very much for joining us. Again, sorry for this like awful setup over here in the poor audio. Hopefully you can, um, live with it for a little bit. It's okay. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.